So the term skills architecture, a lot of the terms you'll hear are skills ontology, skill model, skill taxonomy, and we can get into what the distinctions are between those. But the problems that they're trying to solve is there's a couple. One is, what is a skill? This is as foundational as it gets. You'll get different answers from different organizations. One of the things that it's important to level set on is when we talk about skills in our organization, what does that mean? So that's sort of table stakes.
One of the things that I recall that I thought was really interesting as we started out in this journey within Workday at Cushman and Wakefield and starting to stand up Skills Cloud was just the realization that we had a number of skills already captured within the Workday system. In learning and development, wasn't even aware we had captured. So we had those from a variety of different sources. It could have come in through some of the data that was flowing through the TA function. It could have been through individuals updating their employee profile within the Workday system. And so initially my expectation was that we had nothing there. And I was a little surprised to find out we actually had a lot in that space.
Yeah, definitely those areas, talent acquisition. Another one is the succession planning that you have here as a bullet. So just identifying within your workforce some skill sets. Workday has some nice also functionality around like rating those skills. So you can get a good understanding of what the peers think of that one employee around their specific skills. And then you can use that information for the succession planning step. A lot of times that's like a second or third phase of just the journey of skills. But that's kind of what I'm seeing.
And then Serena, you've done Skills Cloud at a couple different organizations. What's your experience been?
Yeah, so we were ambitious and wanted to use it for strategic workforce planning. And both cases realized there's a lot to be desired, I guess, in what Skills Cloud can do. And part of it was perhaps user error in like the 80,000 skills is a common problem. But then there's also like for global companies like the ones I was at, there were lots of language issues.
I know Julian mentioned something about where do you start if you're competency-based today?
And the same insight that I put a link to, skill ontologies from February 10th, Matt Donovan is the one that led that session. And he was using terms that I've never heard before. But one of the things that he pointed out, and it's on the recordings and insight for February 10th, is that most of the many L&D people like to start with competency models that map to job roles. And as the job roles are changing with automation, that most of the skill successes are when you link it to the actual work. We did talk about that. So I think this is a really good question. And if you are competency-based, let's say you bought a competency model, they're mapped to job roles, how do you take that body of knowledge and tap into Skill Cloud or these skill inventories? Is that kind of what you're thinking about, Julian?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Dirk. I mean, my organization, Goodyear, has invested, well, first of all, we're 125 years old. So, and we're a safety-driven culture, so we take change one step at a time, which isn't a bad thing, but we're invested heavily in competencies. Everyone's aware in the broader HR community that skills are becoming a thing, and so that's great. But where do you go? How do you take this step from, hey, to your point, Dirk, we do competency-based interviewing, our job profiling is all competency-driven, and our whole, even our L&D, everything's kind of based therefore on competencies if you did that right. So where do you go? How do you begin that change? Because it's not a vacuum. It's not like we're starting from scratch. We're starting from something that already exists. And it's often the change in state and that rub that creates the issue. And you're right, you could start small, but you still have this problem of taking you from one to another. And that's a cutover. I'm sorry to say that's just, there's no way not to bring a little heat when you're doing that. So I am so curious about